3. Description. 3.1. Introduction. It is estimated that more than 99.9% of all species that had ever lived on this planet Earth have gone extinct. Out of the rest, 0.1% of extant species that are living today, which is currently estimated to be around 1 trillion, we know only 1,000th of 1% of this, indicating extreme knowledge gap. It is now estimated that almost half of all extant species will go extinct by 2100 even before these species are discovered and characterized. Extinction, or more specifically, species extinction, refers to the death of the last member of a species. As the definition is centered about the species, all the ambiguities and problems of species concept discussed in speciation module also affects the term extinction. Consider the common ancestor of human Homo and chimp Pan lineages that lived on planet Earth approximately 12 million years ago. Homogeneous population of this species might have split into two because of vicariance, the exact cause remain unknown, and each of these two populations evolved to construe common ancestors of either of these two lineages. For example, after this population split into two, the population that evolved into lineage consisting of human beings served as the common ancestor of Homo lineage, not shared with Pan lineage, and vice versa with the other population. An intuitive analogy for this allopatric speciation is the phenomenon of binary fission reproduction that occurs in bacteria. In binary fission, a mother cell split into two daughter cells. Each of these daughter cells grow in size, and split into two again. During this split, can we affirm that the mother cell had died? Even if the mother cell prior to binary fission have become non-existent in the form it used to be, the daughter cells are in part made up of the mother cell. Similarly, when a population of one species split into two and each evolved to different lineages or different species, it is incorrect to call the original species as extinct, sensu stricto. This phenomenon is sometimes referred as pseudo-extinction or cladogenesis. A. Rigorous. 6. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Delineation between these pseudo-extinct species and extinct species is nearly impossible to achieve through paleontological studies. For example, if we study the fossils of this common ancestor of Homo and Pan, we would conclude that this species once existed on planet Earth, perhaps for a span between 1 million and 10 million, had gone extinct around 12 million years ago. If we reconstruct the evolutionary legacy of these lineages using molecular phylogenetics, of course we would be able to know that this extinct species is in fact a pseudo-extinct species. Typical lifespan of a species is around 10 million years. However, this varies widely between different taxonomical lineages. 1 to 10 million is a better approximation. However, some species greatly outlive this approximation, the so-called living fossils. One example is an ancestor of lungfishes, coelacanth. It is thought for a long time that this species have gone extinct at the end of Cretaceous period in the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event that also wiped out planet's dinosaurs. However, in 1938, a South African researcher have found this fish at Chilumna River, South Africa. Such species that thought to have gone extinct but later rediscovers are called Lazarus taxa. Another example for living fossil is the species Ginkgo biloba. This species had virtually no changes for the last 270 million years. Another example for living fossil is the species Ginkgo biloba. This species had virtually no changes for the last 270 million years. The term extinction is used in ecology to refer to the phenomenon of local extinction. When a previously recorded species disappears from a local habitat, this phenomenon is also called extirpation. In many ecosystems, extinction of one species have repercussions on the rest of ecological niche in which the extinct species was part of, causing the knock-on effects of several other species. This is especially true if the species that have gone extinct is a keystone speciest species that plays a unique and substantial role in ecosystem function such that without which the whole ecosystem collapses. An example. 7. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Of keystone species is African elephant in a savanna ecosystem. If this species goes extinct, the savanna will turn to be a woodland causing widespread effects across the whole ecosystem and initiating a series of extinction events. An extinct species is often denoted with a dagger symbol in species lists and phylogenetic trees. Many species, including African elephants, are now on the verge of extinction. IUCN International Union for the Conservation of Nature Red List often uses the terms threatened and endangered to denote species on the verge of extinction. A number of species that are extinct in the wild already are now conserved through ex situ mode in zoos and botanical gardens. These species are denoted extinct in wild. 3.2. Causes of natural extinction. Almost the whole of extinctions ever happened in the earth were due to natural causes in contrast to anthropogenic causes. This is partially due to the fact that the humanity came into existence only very recently 3,000 years ago in the deep geological history of life on Earth spanning 4 billion years. Rate of extinction is an important determinant of biodiversity at any given point of time along with rate of speciation. Most of these extinctions are natural, background extinctions. Extinction is an eventuality of any species, like death in the case of individuals. Causes of these natural extinctions are multifaceted and often unknown. Often there are contrasting hypotheses for the same extinction events. A major cause of natural extinctions is between species competition for similar resources. This phenomenon is analogous to natural selection. While natural selection acts on individuals of population, interspecific competition occurs at the level of communities. For example, consider a marine pelagic habitat where the only primary producer are phytoplanktons. There could be competitions between different zooplankton species for this limiting food resource. In this interspecific competition, better adapted fit species. 8. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Outcompetes the unfit species, and ultimately the fit species drives the unfit to extinction. Species can also lose its competitive advantage over other species when the habitat it occupies changes in response to various biotic factors. For example, desertification of vegetation leads to dramatic changes in ecological niche. A number of previously well-adapted, fit species would become less adapted to desert ecosystem and ultimately go extinct. However, note that such extinctions are local in nature. Same species might be living at some other locations of planet Earth. Many global-scale species extinctions were caused by tremendous catastrophes such as asteroid impact or global glaciation. These massive geological events wipes out all the individuals of species, and thus species goes extinct. Species extinction is an irrevocable event, a loss that can never be reverted. Asteroid impact usually act at a specific location on planet Earth, but could have global-scale repercussions. For instance, it could spread massive amount of fine dust into the atmosphere such that the whole planet would become covered in thick dust layer and sunlight would become a limiting factor. Without enough sunlight reaching the Earth's surface, Earth would cool down dramatically, plants die out, driving the rest of the trophic levels into extinction. Extinctions could also be caused by climate changes at the global or local level. Local level environmental stress conditions would affect endemic species, for instance drying up of a lake housing many endemic species of fishes. As these endemic species are found nowhere else on this planet, even the local level environmental conditions would result in global level species extinction. Therefore, small speciose habitats housing a substantial endemic species are the most labile ecosystems for the extinctions. For this reason, conservation programs often prioritize these hotspots. Biodiversity hotspots are regions with extraordinary level of endemism for vascular plants. 1,500 species of endemic plants and it need to have lost at least 70% of its original habitat. While the 9. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation Hotspot criterion is based on endemism and loss of habitat. It is skewed towards vascular plants. It does not account other major plant lineages such as algae or mosses, or other living beings such as animals, fungi, protozoa or bacteria. Global level climate change would have huge ramifications and drive several species in the world towards extinction, as in the case of Permian mass extinction. During each glacial periods, the last of such events happened around 20,000 years ago. Several species at high latitudes would go extinct, as temperate and subpolar regions would become glaciated for a long period. 3.3. The Big Five extinction events and its causes. While species extinction is an ongoing process as in the case of speciation, some extinction events are truly remarkable and have happened at the global scale resulting a substantial decline in global biodiversity and a large number of species events. These extraordinary extinction events at the global level are called mass extinction events. There are at least 5 such mass extinction events well characterized by geologists and paleontologists till date, the Big Five. These extinction events are so massive such that a well-demarcated rock layer at this period is found across the world that separates comparatively speciose layers above and below this. However, note that these mass extinction events are extremely rare in the Earth's deep geologic time. Isolated extinction events are much more common. All 5 extinction events, therefore, mark as boundaries between respective periods above and below the extinction events. Extinction events might not always be due to higher rates of extinction alone, it could be combined with lower rates of speciation, or entirely due to low rate of speciation. While the exact causes for these 5 events differ, the after effect is mostly uniform. Fluctuations in global climate and sea levels, volcanism and impact events resulting in ejection of toxic gases, ashes and aerosols. 10. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Into the atmosphere causing greenhouse effect, reduction in primary productivity caused by darkened atmosphere, destruction of food chains and anoxia, depletion of oxygen. Ordovician Silurian OS extinction event is the second largest of the 5 mass extinction events. This happened approximately 450 million years ago, and resulted in the extinction of nearly 85% of marine species. A major cause of this extinction event was massive glaciation, the most severe glaciation in the current eon Phanerozoic. The glaciation resulted in the extinction of most of the warm water species. Among those species that could seek glacial refugia in limited supporting habitats, very low population size of these founding population along with high extent of genetic drift caused elimination of entire ecological niches and extinction of many species. During glaciation, sea levels drop, while during interglacials, it rises again, causing extreme fluctuations. A contrasting hypothesis for OS extinction event postulate is a massive gamma ray burst from a hypernova 6,000 light-years ago from Earth. Even a modest 10-second gamma ray burst would have removed half of the ozone layer, which resulted in extinction of several plant species by resulting UV exposure, wreaking havoc at the primary trophic level, affecting entire ecological niche and driving many species to extinction. Yet another contrasting hypothesis states that the cause of global glaciation was volcanic eruptions across the globe. These eruptions deposited silicate rocks around the world, and created entire orogenies mountain ranges, such as Appalachian Mountains, with predominant silicious rocks. When these silicious rocks weathered, it sequestered removed County 2 from the atmosphere, that lead to lower greenhouse effect, global cooling and ultimately the glaciation. Second of the Big Five is late Devonian extinction that happened approximately 370 million years ago, around the boundary between Devonian Second of the Big Five is late Devonian extinction that happened approximately 370 million years ago, around the boundary between Devonian and Carboniferous period. This extinction event resulted in extinction of almost 70% of species worldwide, although in terms of extinction intensity, this event was the lowest among the Big Five. One of the major. 11. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Trigger for this extinction event is now considered to be the plant evolution in Devonian period, from relatively simple plants at early Devonian measuring 30 centimeters in height with rhizoids that penetrated merely few centimeters of soil layers. Vascular plant evolution in Devonian period resulted in massive trees up to 30 meters in height. Expansive forests of these trees covered much of the land masses, with two effects. The first and foremost, these deep-rooted trees mobilized deeper soil layers causing weathering of silicious rocks as well as nutrient runoff to ocean. As explained in the OS extinction event, weathering of silicate rocks removed CO2 from the atmosphere, leading to a major glaciation event, late Devonian glaciation. The nutrient runoff to ocean and limnetic systems resulted in eutrophication, explosive bloom of algae, and finally anoxia wiping out many aquatic species. Second consequence of planet-wide forestation was CO2 sequestration by these trees through formation of massive coal deposits. As atmospheric CO2 was removed, global cooling began, that finally culminating in the late Devonian glaciation. Resulting icehouse phenomenon would extend much of the subsequent Carboniferous and Permian periods. The third mass extinction event, Permian extinction, happened 252 million years ago, and is the most catastrophic among all five. This big dying event drove almost 96% of all marine species extinct, the biggest in the history of Earth till date. There are several contrasting hypotheses on the possible causes of this event, however, no consensus exists on the exact cause. As the extinction was such a devastating level, most probably this extinction was triggered by a catastrophic event, such as a bolide impact or volcanism. Currently the most popular among the hypotheses on the causes of Permian extinction is that an impact by a massive bolide, approximately 250 kilometers in diameter. As the Earth's surface is mostly ocean, covering 72%, probability of asteroid impact occurring at ocean is far higher than that occurring at land. However, oceanic plates keep on moving. The phenomenon of tectonic subduction is analogous to movement of conveyor belts such that the ocean floor recycle once in every 200 million years. This recycling happens. 12. Paper O3 Biodiversity and Conservation. Everywhere, crater resulting from any such a massive bolide impact would have been erased by now. An indirect existence of such an impact crater near Falkland Islands near Antarctica was discovered in 1992, as revealed by a circular anomaly in gravity. Several follow-up researches published later corroborated this early suggestion. Adding on, the land masses of the world was united into supercontinent Pangaea at this time, and such an oceanic impact would have resulted in more severe extinctions in the now contiguous ocean rather than on land. In fact, this event wiped off 96% of all marine species while only 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species. This impact might have triggered extreme volcanic activities at the antipode of impact site, in the Russian Siberia. One of the most expansive igneous deposits on the planet Earth, Siberian Traps, had been dated to be around this time, perfectly in agreement with bolide impact hypothesis. Extreme volcanism at Siberia might have ejected massive amount of ash, toxic gases and CO2 into the atmosphere. It also caused ignition of massive coal beds that resulted in further rise in CO2 levels and more atmospheric ash. The dense ash layer might have completely blocked out sunrays reaching the Earth, collapsing ecosystems of both ocean and land. Other hypotheses include release of methane from methane clathrate deposits of ocean floor, or by methanogenic bacteria inhabiting benthic zone, global oceanic anoxia, release of hydrogen sulfide and so on. However, almost all of these events could probably be the after effects of initial bolide impacts, and subsequent volcanic eruptions, rather than the initial cause. The fourth mass extinction event, Triassic-Jurassic TJ, happened around 200 million years ago that lead approximately 70–75% of all species go extinct. In terrestrial ecosystem, an obvious after effect of this event was that as it wiped out competitors for earliest dinosaur species, it paved way for the great expansion of dinosaurs in Jurassic period. In contrast with the rest four, only TJ event among the big five was the result of decrease in speciation rate rather than an increase in extinction rate, as revealed by a number of modern research. Background extinction rates remained same during TJ while the rate of speciation. 13. Paper O3 Biodiversity and Conservation. Tremendously decreased. While a number of causes were hypothesized, as of now no consensus exists. The event was sudden, however, not due to extinctions, but rather a decrease in speciation rates, posing great difficulty for the paleontologists who address the possible causes. Amongst the hypotheses are gradual climate change along with ocean acidification, ditto of the current day climate change and ocean acidification phenomena, asteroid impact, volcanic eruptions. A possibility is that series of volcanic eruptions initiated great changes in global carbon cycle that resulted in comparatively high intensity climate change. An immediate aftermath of this extinction event is the breakup of supercontinent Pangaea. The fifth mass extinction event, Cretaceous-Paleogene K-PA, also called Cretaceous-Tertiary KT, occurred 66 million years ago. This event caused extinction of about 75% of all species of Earth that include all non-avian species of dinosaurs, and caused rapid diversification of mammalian lineage. As this event occurred comparatively recently, there seems to be a good deal of consensus among geologists and paleontologists about the cause of this event. The key discovery happened in 1980 when Nobel laureate Luis Alvarez found a layer of iridium with iridium concentrations as high as 160 times that found in nature, in the K-PA layers from various sites across the world. As iridium is very rare in Earth's surface, he proposed that a major asteroid impact was the initial cause of K-PA event. In addition, clay layers of K-PA layer contained microscopic spheres of rock that by all probability formed when molten rock recrystallized inside the clay, suggesting a planet-wide extreme heat immediately after the impact. It is now accepted that a giant asteroid of approximately 180 kilometers in diameter struck the Earth at Chicxulub near Yucatan coast of Mexico. This created the now famous the oval submarine Chicxulub crater. Consequences of this impact were tremendous. The entry of asteroid itself would have caused a massive IR irradiation instantly killing Consequences of this impact were tremendous. The entry of asteroid itself would have caused a massive IR irradiation, instantly killing most of the organisms inhabiting planet's surfaces. The burning released immense amount of ash and soot that blocked out sun. 14. Paper O3 Biodiversity and Conservation. Phenomenon known as nuclear winter. The impact released an energy, which is more than a billion times combined energy of 2 atomic bombs that decimated Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. As the impact site was rather rich in sulfur, the impact released very large sulfur aerosols into the stratosphere, resulting in planet-wide acid rains, ocean acidification and global cooling that continued for the next 32,000 years. Mean ocean temperature hovered around 7 degrees Celsius. Ocean acidification killed phytoplanktons, organisms having calcareous shells, and devastated marine ecosystems. The impact also resulted in megatsunami that devastated coastal regions around the world. Simultaneous volcanic eruptions at various regions around the globe that happened around this time is now considered to have been triggered by this initial bolide impact. Amongst these volcano eruptions is the famous one that resulted in Deccan traps in India. 3.4. Hippo, or the sixth mass extinction at the Anthropocene. There seemed to have a consensus that the planet Earth is currently undergoing a major, sixth mass extinction, caused almost entirely by human activities. Effect of human activities since the beginning of Industrial Revolution in 17th century is so tremendous that resulted in an extraordinary spike of global CO2 levels along with other greenhouse gases. The series of events led geologists, climatologists and paleontologists to propose the beginning of new epoch, Anthropocene at the end of Holocene that began around 11,500 years ago. There are at least 784 confirmed species extinctions since 1500s. The main causes of this event can be summarized in the acronym HIPPO. HIPPO stands for habitat loss and destruction, invasive species, pollution, human population, and overharvesting. Because of human population expansion and agriculture, a number of pristine habitats have now completely altered. Habitat loss is especially prone in the wetland ecosystems of the world, and a number of endemic species of the wetlands. 15. Paper O3 Biodiversity and Conservation. Have become extinct. Invasion or introduction by exotic species exerts tremendous pressures for the local species and drive much of the local species to extinction. One famous example is accidental introduction of brown tree snake to the island Guam from Australia during World War II. As the Guam until then had no snakes and therefore no snake predators, the exotic snake species could thrive there that resulted in extirpation of most of the local bird species. Other examples include introduction of feral dog dingo to Australia 4,000 years ago that drove extinction of several marsupial species, and introduction of rats into Mauritius by Dutch sailors that ate eggs of endemic flightless bird dodo. Pollution, especially by synthetic chemicals pesticides, caused extinction of a number of key amphibian and insect species throughout the world. World's aquatic fauna is especially prone to overharvesting. It is now estimated that by 2150 almost the entire species of marine and freshwater fishes would go extinct. Albeit its threatened status, a number of whale species of the world continue to be hunted by countries including Japan and Norway. Human population explosion caused almost all of these associated problems, including habitat loss, species invasion, pollution and overharvesting. 16. Paper O3 Biodiversity and Conservation. 4. Summary. 4.1. Despite the public perception, most of the extinction that have happened in the history of life on this planet was due to natural causes. Process of extinction along with speciation determines biodiversity at any specific time. 4.2. One species splitting into two is technically called cladogenesis or pseudo-extinction. The extinction is death of the last individual of a species worldwide. Extinction is also different from ecological extinction or extirpation, which is the local disappearance of a species from a habitat. However, local extinctions would cause species extinction if the species in question is an endemic species, the species that occur nowhere else on the planet. 4.3. Natural background extinction events are caused by a number of factors, ecological, climatological, or natural catastrophes. Vast majority of species extinctions happened at isolated places. Although rare, 4 out of 5 mass extinctions resulted in the extinction of a vast number of species en masse. 4.4. Each of the 5 mass extinctions had its own causative factors. In general, these factors include asteroid bolide impact, volcanic activities, changes in global carbon fluxes, climate change, ocean acidification, extreme fluctuations in sea levels and blockade of sunlight due to ash and soot deposition in atmosphere resulting in global cooling. 4.5. There is a consensus among geologists and paleontologists that since the beginning of Industrial Revolution the Earth is undergoing sixth mass extinction, that delineate the present epoch, Anthropocene, from the preceding epoch, Holocene. 4.6. The present mass extinction is caused by 5 principal factors: habitat loss, invasive species, pollution, human population and overharvesting, summarized in the acronym HIPPO. Introduction. In previous modules we have learned about causes and threats to biodiversity, importance of biodiversity and its loss. In this module we will study about different strategies which can be adopted for the conservation of biodiversity. Strategies for biodiversity conservation. Biological diversity is the key foundation of a healthy, livable and sustainable planet, but the increasing exploitation coupled with natural calamities has led to the rapid dwindling of important species. Large numbers of organisms are facing loss or extinction due to natural and anthropogenic reasons. It is estimated that 60,000 to 1 species with diverse economic uses are under threat of extinction and needs to be protected. This necessitates urgent measures to conserve the biodiversity at ecosystem, species and gene pool levels, and to enable sustained use for present and future generations. Conservation refers to the protection, preservation, management and restoration of the landscapes, ecosystems and species. An organism can be conserved in a natural, artificial habitat or in the form of a germplasm, bacterial cultures, animal tissues, seeds, etc. By employing various methods, a number of efforts have been put forward by various governmental and non-governmental organizations aiming for the conservation of biodiversity. It includes certain in situ and ex situ approaches. The emergence of in vitro technology as an adjunct to ex situ conservation is being viewed with great expectations for conservation of threatened species. The need of our is to amalgamate. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. The traditional as well as emerging technologies towards conservation of biodiversity and genetic resources for sustainable development. The first and foremost step required in the direction of biodiversity conservation is about gathering knowledge on the existing biodiversity. It has been stated that the Earth inhabits millions of plants and animal species, only a few of which have been identified so far. The taxonomists are required to identify and quantify more and more species so that closer estimates could be built up while measuring the biodiversity loss. Thereafter, appropriate plans and policies should be designed, depending on the habitats, species, and conservation priorities. The last step requires the strong implementation of these conservation strategies by enforcing the laws in order to achieve the objective. Also, promoting awareness among the general public about the ongoing overexploitation and its future implications are required. It is also important for all the developed and developing countries to work in coordination, share as much information as they have about the biodiversity in their region and help each other for the realization of this goal. Biodiversity conservation methods of in situ conservation. In situ or on-site conservation is the protection of organism in its natural habitat where evolutionary progression continues. The in situ approach includes protection of a group of typical ecosystems or the regions with high biodiversity through a network of protected areas. These are the terrestrial or marine areas, exclusively meant to protect biological diversity and its allied resources. This is the most appropriate method as the species are being conserved in their natural habitats. It includes national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, sacred groves, and biosphere reserves. National parks. National parks are protected areas under government, secluded from any kind of human interference. These are the small reserves meant for the protection of wildlife and their natural habitats. Activities like grazing, forestry, etc. are not permitted in these areas. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Some major national parks in India. 1. Gir National Park, Gujarat. 2. Jim Corbett National Park, Uttarakhand. 3. Kaziranga National Park, Assam. 4. Bandipur National Park, Karnataka. 5. Tudula National Park, Maharashtra. 6. Kanha National Park, Madhya Pradesh. 7. Manas National Park, Assam. 8. Raibul Lamjau National Park, Manipur. Wildlife sanctuaries. The wildlife sanctuaries are bounded to conserve the wild flora and fauna. Similar to national parks, these are also government-owned areas, but limited human activities such as harvesting of timbers, collection of forest products, cultivation of lands, etc. are allowed in wildlife sanctuaries as long as these do not interfere with the wild environment. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Some wildlife sanctuaries in India. 1. Bandipur Wildlife Sanctuary, Karnataka. 2. Bhitarkanaka Wildlife Sanctuary, Orissa. 3. Gibbon Wildlife Sanctuary, Assam. 4. Dachigam Wildlife Sanctuary, Jammu and Kashmir. 5. Sundarbans Wildlife Sanctuary, West Bengal. 6. Keoladeo Bird Sanctuary, Rajasthan, now converted to National Park. 7. Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary, Kerala. 8. Mundantharai Wildlife Sanctuary, Tamil Nadu. Sacred groves. Sacred groves are the forest fragments of varying sizes, which are communally protected and usually have a significant religious importance. Economic activities like hunting, timber production, etc. are strictly prohibited in these areas. Sacred groves do not enjoy protection via federal legislation in India but are protected by locals and associated NGOs. For example, scrub forest in Thar Desert of Rajasthan maintained by Bishnoi's community and sacred Hindu grove near Chandad on the banks of Narbada worshipped by local communities. Largest. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Sacred grove in India is Hariali, near Ganchar in Chamoli district in Uttarakhand. According to an estimate, there are nearly 14,000 to 1,000 sacred groves all over India. Picture of a sacred grove. Biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves, on the other hand, are a special category of protected areas of land, where people are an integral component of the system. A biosphere reserve consists of a core, buffer and transition zones. The natural or core zone represents an undisturbed or least disturbed area of representative ecosystem. The buffer zone surrounds the core zone, and is managed for research, education and training activities. The transition zone is an area of active cooperation between reserve management and the local people. Its goal is to facilitate the conservation of biodiversity, foster sustainable economic and human development and to provide support for research, monitoring, education and information. 9 of the 18 biosphere reserves in India are included in UNESCO Man in the Biosphere Program list. List of biosphere reserves in India. 1. Nilgiri, Western Ghats 1986. 2. Nandadevi, Uttarakhand 19883. Nokrek, Meghalaya 1988. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. 4. Gulf of Mannar, Tamil Nadu 1989. 5. Sundarbans, West Bengal 1989. 6. Manas, Assam 1989. 7. Great Nicobar, Andaman and Nicobar Islands 1989. 8. Simlipal, Odisha 1994. 9. Dibru Saikhowa, Assam 1997. 10. Dihang Dabang, Arunachal Pradesh 1998. 11. Panchmari, Madhya Pradesh 1999. 12. Kangchenjunga, Sikkim 2000. 13. Agastyamalai, Western Ghats 2001. 14. Akanakamar Amarkantak, Madhya Pradesh 2005. 15. Kuchach, Gujarat 2008. 16. Cold Desert, Himachal Pradesh 2009. 17. Seshachalam, Andhra Pradesh 2010-18. PANA, Madhya Pradesh 2011. Protected Area Network in India. Protected Area Status. National Parks 103 Wildlife Sanctuaries 543 Biosphere Reserves 18 Community Reserves 45 Conservation Reserves 73. Total protected area, 1, 62,024.69 square kilometers, 4.93% of total geographical area. Source, July 2017. B. Ex situ conservation. Ex situ or off-site conservation refers to the protection of elements of biodiversity outside their natural habitats. In this case, there is a cessation of evolutionary progression, but the desired genes would be preserved. This conservation strategy plays an important role in recovering the endangered species. It is particularly useful in the field of agriculture as the Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Domesticated plants which cannot survive in nature unaided can be preserved using various ex situ techniques. It includes 1. Zoological gardens where the animals are confined in enclosures, displayed to public for educational and recreational motives and may even bred for conservation purposes. 2. Botanical gardens has a collection of wide range of plants grown outside natural habitat in some artificially provided conditions and are meant for conservation, research and education. 3. Arboreta are the botanical gardens specialized in trees. 4. Nurseries are a place where plants are propagated to usable size, usually up to the seedling stage, generally meant for ornamental purposes. 5. Field gene banks are useful for conserving plant genotypes generally vegetatively propagated as live plants that undergo continuous growth and require continuous maintenance. These provide an easy access to plant genetic resources but are expensive to maintain, require more labor, inputs and space and have higher levels of risk from natural disasters and attacks from pests and pathogens. 42,000 varieties of rice are conserved in Central Rice Research Institute in Orissa. 6. Captive breeding of animals with possible reintroduction into the wild. 7. Artificial propagation of plants. 8. In vitro techniques include the laboratory practices used for the conservation of plant, animal, and microbial diversity through its storage in germplasm banks, propagation via tissue culture methods, preservation using the technique of cryopreservation, conversion into artificial seeds, maintenance as slow-growth cultures, and long-term perpetuation as DNA clones. C. In vitro techniques like germplasm banks. Germplasm banks or biobanks provide controlled storage facilities of temperature, humidity, etc. for the material to be conserved. These are variously called as seed banks, gene banks, DNA banks, etc. depending on the material that is conserved in them. They are generally used for the storage of seeds, sperm and ova. The germplasm banks save large variety of plants and Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Animals in a very small space and at the same time ensure the authenticity of scientific identity of the conserved material. It also ensures the responsible use of the material, equitable benefit sharing by all parties, and international networking with other in vitro banks, thereby facilitating the exchange of knowledge material. Material conserved in germplasm banks are of 3 types. Base collection. Samples which is kept for long term and is not to be used as a routine distribution source. Active collection. Samples maintained for medium-term viability, about 30 years, which are available when required. Working collection. Samples which are easily accessible to be used by breeders or researchers for various experiments and crop improvement programs. Seed banks. In case of plant species, seeds are a convenient means of long-term storage of genetic diversity, as the samples are small in size, easy to handle, require low maintenance and frequently remain viable for long periods. In seed banks, material in the form of seeds are stored at nearly -10 to -20 degrees Celsius, often using silica gel in the seed containers to reduce humidity. In general, conditions of low temperature and desiccation allow seeds to maintain viability, in many cases indefinitely. Further, the method provides ease of storage, economy of space, low labor demands, maintenance of large samples and cost-related advantages. Thus, storage of material in the form of seeds is one of the most widespread and valuable ex situ approaches to conservation. However, they are found to be ineffective for recalcitrant seeds, seeds which get killed or become unviable over a period of time when exposed to drying and freezing conditions, plants which reproduce by vegetative means and materials modified by genetic engineering which are generally unstable. Famous seed bank projects. Millennium Seed Bank Project, associated with Royal Botanical Garden, Kew. In October 2009 it has reached its 10% goal of banking the entire world's wild plant species. Its 47 plant organizations in 17 countries intend to store 25% of world's plant species by 2020. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. 10 international agricultural research institutions, coordinated by Consultative Group on International Agricultural Research, CGIAR, Washington, focused on crops and have extensive seed collection. Svalbard Global Seed Vault opened on February 26, 2008 near Norway, 600 miles from North Pole. It is designed to hold 4.5 billion batches of seeds of world's main crops. On March 2013 the number of samples has increased to 70,000. National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources NBPGR, New Delhi, India has over 3.43 lakh samples of 2.47 lakh varieties of various species which include around 28,000 accessions of wild relatives of various crops. Tissue culture. Tissue culture is an in vitro technique, based on the concept of totipotency, of plant cells. Cellular totipotency is the capability of a cell to give rise to a whole new plant. Mature cells undergo dedifferentiation to become meristematic and then undergo redifferentiation to form a whole new organism. Tissue culture methods are increasingly being employed for storing valuable threatened species. This is because it offers the unique opportunities of storing several valuable species in a comparatively small space under secure and pathogen-free environment, with relative ease of multiplication. Germplasm available in the form of microbial cultures, cells or organs in case of animal species and seeds, cuttings or vegetative propagules in case of plants is used for micropropagation. However, this proves to be uneconomical in terms of labor and physical resources and time-consuming as well. Also, it may have constraints such as somoclonal variations or loss of morphogenic potential in some cases. Plants conserved by tissue culture. Mature trees of Ulmus americana, which survived the epidemics of Dutch elm disease and are potential sources of disease resistance, are conserved using mature leaf as an explant by tissue culture techniques. Shukla et al., 2012. Leptodenia reticulata G1T, a medicinally important endangered woody climber, is preserved using leaf as explant. Patel et al. Jan. 2014a. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Caralluma edulis, an endangered and endemic edible plant species of the Thar Desert, is tissue cultured using nodal segments as explant. Patel et al. 2014b. Orchis lanata, native to South Europe and endangered in Kashmir and Kumaon regions of India, is conserved by Kalas formation. Shrestha and Joshi, 1992. Gentiana kuru, a medicinally important plant, endemic to Kashmir and Himalayas, is cultured using axillary shoots in order to conserve it in vitro. Sharma et al., 1993. IV cryopreservation. Cryopreservation or freeze preservation is a technique of preservation of germplasm at ultra-low temperature of -196 degrees Celsius, i.e. the temperature of liquid nitrogen. The principle underlying cryopreservation involves bringing the culture to a state of non-dividing and zero metabolism, so that any biological activity is effectively stopped. Cryopreservation also helps in storing tissues of animal origin such as cultured animal cells, spermatozoa, ovarian or embryonic tissues, and whole embryos for livestock breeding programs. Freeze preservation of microbes, algae, insects, and other organisms can also be done, which can possibly be used in future for biotechnological researches. B. Artificial seeds. Somatic embryos are cultured in vitro through embryogenesis and can be preserved as artificial or synthetic seeds by coating with gels like sodium alginate, calcium alginate, and polyacrylamide gel, etc., which prevent them from desiccating. These somatic embryos are then dehydrated to a suitable level and subjected to slow growth or cryopreservation in a manner similar to zygotic seeds. Production of sodium alginate beads by encapsulation of shoot tips and nodal segments of medicinally important plant Mentha urbensis helps in its in vitro regeneration and conservation. Islam and Bari, 2014. B. DNA clones. DNA, the basic unit of heredity of a cell, can effectively be used for conservation of threatened plant species. Germplasm can be stored in the form of DNA segments cloned into a suitable vector such as cosmids, plasmids, and bacteriophage. With the recent progress in the field of molecular biology such as polymerase chain reaction (PCR) combined with gene cloning, small amounts of tissues can provide substantial collections of all the DNA of a plant genome. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. This is particularly useful in the case of threatened species where the material is available in limited numbers. Additionally, DNA can be isolated from dead tissues or barium specimens, providing information that would be otherwise lost if living tissues are dead. However, this option can only be considered for those species where no other strategy is workable, as the technique is highly sophisticated, technically demanding, and expensive. Currently extracted or preserved DNA cannot be used to regenerate whole organism, but any chosen gene can be isolated for use in genetic engineering. Its preservation can be used for conservation of valuable genes or DNA segments from threatened species. International Framework for Biodiversity Conservation. The World Heritage Convention. Since its beginning in 1972, this convention has been responsible for the preservation of cultural properties with 190 parties under it. It enhances public knowledge, awareness, and appreciation for the heritage sites. The International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN, now called as World Conservation Union, WCU. It was founded in 1948 in order to bring governmental, non-governmental agencies around the world together to conserve biodiversity and natural resources and promote their sustainable use at local, national, and international levels. 81 countries all over the world are its members, and the headquarters of the organization are located in Gland, Switzerland. The Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, CITES. The convention was signed in Washington, D.C. in March 1973, basically to put ban on the overexploitation and international trade of wild fauna and flora. Currently 178 parties are there under sites, and nearly 30,000 species are protected by this convention. Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. The convention came into force on the 29th of December 1993 with objective of conserving the biodiversity, sustainable use of biodiversity, and fair and equitable share of benefits arising by the use of natural resources. 193 countries have adopted this convention, including India. International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, ITPGRFA. International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources, popularly known as International Seed Treaty, is a comprehensive international agreement in harmony with the Convention on Biological Diversity, which aims at guaranteeing food security through the conservation, exchange, and sustainable use of the world's plant genetic resources for food and agriculture, as well as the fair and equitable benefit sharing arising from its use. Ramsar Convention on Wetlands of International Importance. It is an international collaboration of 168 parties covering 21,431 wetlands of international importance. It was initiated in 1971 for the conservation of wetlands, mangrove, and coral reefs. The Convention on Migratory Species, CMS. Also known as Bonn Convention, it is an international treaty aiming to conserve terrestrial, aquatic, and avian migratory species. National Framework for Biodiversity Conservation. State and Union Government of India has developed a number of wildlife acts for the enforcement of conservation strategies. 1. Madras Wild Elephant Preservation Act, 1873. 2. All India Elephant Preservation Act, 1879. 3. The Wild Birds and Animals Protection Act, 1912. 4. Bengal Rhinoceros Preservation Act, 1932. 5. Assam Rhinoceros Preservation Act, 1954. 6. Wildlife Protection Act, 1972, amended in 1983, 1986 and 1991. 7. Forest Conservation Act, 1980, amended in 1988. 8. The Environment Protection Act, 1986. 9. The Biodiversity Act, 2002, implemented in 2004-10. The National Environmental Policy, 2006. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Apart from that, individual projects for the conservation of endangered species. For example, Project Tiger was launched in 1973 and tiger reserves were formed to promote their conservation. Similar projects on crocodiles 1954, lion 1952, and elephants 1991-1992 have also been undertaken. The Indian Board of Wildlife (IBWL) is the main advisory body of government of India, constituted in 1952, reconstituted in 1991 under the chairmanship of Prime Minister, and it ensures the conservation of species diversity in the country, establishment of protected areas, sustainable use of ecological services, and control of unethical activities that could harm the biodiversity. Other non-governmental organizations such as Worldwide Fund for Nature, Wildlife Preservation Society of India, Dehradun and Bombay Natural History Society etc. also help in management and conservation of natural flora and fauna. References. Islam, M.S. 1. Introduction. Wildlife means the entire flora and fauna growing in wild and not domesticated. It includes animals, plants and microorganisms, which are not domesticated by humans. Wildlife is an important component of biodiversity. India is unique in diversity of both its wild animal and vegetation. But due to rapid industrialization, increasing population and pollution and high demand of food, hunting etc. has led to overexploitation and extinction of some well-known animals and plants from this nation. For prevention of extinction of species, conservation efforts have been initiated. India has started wildlife conservation programs since 1930 with the establishment of Jim Corbett National Park. A large number of projects have been initiated by the government of India to save animal biodiversity and prevent the extinction. Wildlife conservation is the attempt to protect endangered animal and plant species, along with their natural habitat. The present module focuses only on the various animal conservation projects in India. The conservation projects discussed are 1. Project Tiger. 2. Project Elephant. 3. Project Hongle. 4. Project Snow Leopard. 5. Project One Horn Rhino. 6. Project Ganges Dolphin. 7. Project Crocodile. 8. Project Cheetah. 9. Project Sea Turtle. 10. Vulture Conservation. 2. Project Tiger. Project Tiger is one of the most successful conservation projects not only in India but also globally. The project was launched in the year 1973, based on the recommendations of a task force, set up by the then Prime Minister of India Mrs. Indira Gandhi. When the project was first initiated, 9 tiger reserves were settled to be covered under the Project Tiger. With the time, these have increased to 50 December 2016 and covered almost 71,027 square kilometers area. It is spread in 18 states and covers around 2.21% of the geographical area of our country. Corbett National Park was the first national park of India to come under Project Tiger on April 1. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. 1973. The names of tiger reserves with their states are shown in Table 1 and map in Figure 2. Figure 1. Project Tiger. Table 1. Tiger reserves in India. Source. Project Tiger SL. No. Name of tiger reserve state total area in SQKMs. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. 45 Dudwa Uttar Pradesh 2201.7748 46 Pilibhit Uttar Pradesh 730.24. The World Tiger Day is celebrated every year on the 29th of July. The largest tiger reserve in India is Nagarjunsagar Sri Silam Tiger Reserve. For improving of project strength, National Tiger Conservation Authority has been also set up in different states to monitor the project. National Tiger Conservation Authority (NTCA) is constituted to regulate Project Tiger at national level. It is an administrative body of Project Tiger. In 2006, 1,411 tigers are reported in India, which increased to 1,706 in 2011 and 2,226 in 2014. In 2016, according to World Wildlife Fund and Global Tiger Forum, the total number of wild tigers has increased to 3,891. Tiger conservation is the most significant wildlife project of India. Government of India provides all the financial and technical support through the Project Tiger. The Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change (MoF) provides all the important decisions and funding support through Project Tiger. International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources (IUCN) has also been carried out for independent assessment of tiger reserves, which is based on 45 parameters designed by the World Commission on Protected Areas. The government of India is continuously coming forth to take immediate steps to implement the major recommendations from the task forces for strengthening efforts towards protection of tiger, convicting wildlife criminals, checking poaching, and reducing the smuggling of body parts of tigers in the international market. Figure 2. Map showing tiger reserves. Source. Project Tiger, Government of India. 3. Project Elephant PE. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Project Elephant PE was launched in February 1992 to provide financial and specialized help to significant elephant states among the nation for the security of elephants, their environments, habitats and corridors. Figure 3. The project additionally covered the issues of human-elephant conflict and welfare of domesticated elephants. Currently, 32 elephant reserves (ERs) are existing and occupied 69,583 square kilometers area. The list of statewide elephant reserves with area is shown in Table 2. 3.1. The major objectives of Project Elephant PE. Protect elephants' environment, habitat and corridors. Address issues of man-animal conflict. Welfare of captive elephants. The project is being implemented in 16 states, UTs, viz. Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Kerala, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Orissa, Tamil Nadu, Uttaranchal, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. 3.2. Main activities under the project are as follows: Ministry of Environment and Forest. Ecological restoration of existing natural habitats and migratory routes of elephants. Development of scientific and planned management for conservation of elephant habitats and viable population of wild Asiatic elephants in India. Promotion of measures for mitigation of man-elephant conflict in crucial habitats and moderating pressures of human and domestic stock activities in crucial elephant habitats. Strengthening of measures for protection of wild elephants, form poachers and unnatural causes of death. Research on elephant management-related issues. Public education and awareness programs. Eco-development. Veterinary care, elephant rehabilitation, rescue centers. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Figure 3. Elephant Project. Table 3. Elephant reserves in India. Source: Ministry of Environment and Forest. S number. Reserve name. State area. Pradesh. 14. Kazi. Karbi Anglong. Assam. (3.3) Monitoring of illegal killing of elephants. MIC program. Monitoring of illegal killing of elephants. MIC program. MIC program started in South Asia in the year 2003 to provide information for elephant range states to make appropriate management and enforcement decisions. The aim of this program was to build institutional capacity within the range states for the long-term management of their elephant populations. The main objectives of the MIC are: 1. To measure levels and trends in the illegal hunting of elephants. 2. To determine changes in these trends over time, and Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. 3. To determine the factors causing or associated with such changes, and to try and assess in particular to what extent observed trends are a result of any decisions taken by the conference of the parties to sites. Project Elephant has been officially implementing MIC program of sites in 10 elephant reserves in India since 2004. These consist of Shiwalik, Uttarakhand, Mayurbhanj, Orissa, and Nilgiri, Tamil Nadu. Raipucharang and Deing Putkai, Assam, Garo Hills, Meghalaya, Deomuli, Arunachal Pradesh, Eastern Duars, West Bengal, Wayanad, Kerala, and Mysore, Karnataka. 4. Project Hongol. Hongol project was initiated in the year 1970 with the help of Worldwide Fund WWF. Hongol, also called as Kashmir stag, Service of Finny Hanglu, is a state animal of Jammu and Kashmir. Figure 4. Hongol is a subspecies of Central Asian red deer. It is native to northern parts of India and found in dense riverine forest, mountains of Kashmir Valley and northern Chamba in Himachal Pradesh. Initially the project failed due to lack of participation of local people, cement factories and militancy dealt. Further, this project was again launched with the name of Save Kashmir's Red Deer Hongol in 2009. Another attempt to save the Hongol was to breed it in captivity. Funds were sanctioned for captive breeding. Under the Species Recovery Program, conservation breeding centers are opened at Sakarga Tral, Pulwama district and Kangan. But there is not much progress on increasing the numbers. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Figure 4. Kashmir Stag Hongol. 5. Project Snow Leopard. Snow leopard, also known as mystical apex predator. Figure 5. The project was launched in January 2009 in 5 states of northern Himalayas. The project was initiated in hilly areas, high-altitude areas above the forest in Himalayas J&K, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. It is a highly endangered species. They are mostly found in China and Mongolia other than India. This was an Indian initiative for strengthening wildlife conservation in the Himalayan region. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Figure 5. Snow leopard. WWF India in partnership with Tata Housing Development Company in January 2014 launched Save Our Snow Leopards project. Ladakh becoming role model in protecting snow leopard. The Ladakh region has set an example as a role model for the rest of the country to protect the endangered snow leopard. This is an excellent example of cooperation among government and local community for success of any project. With the help of local community, the Wildlife Department and several non-governmental organizations (NGOs) succeeded to prevent man-animal conflict and discourage killing of the exotic wild cats or snow leopards found in trans-Himalayan Karakoram mountains of the region in Central Asia. There are more than 400 wild cats found within the Indian territory in Ladakh. 6. Project One-Horn Rhino. The Indian rhinoceros, Rhinoceros unicornis, is also called the greater one-horned rhinoceros. Figure 6. It is listed as a vulnerable species under the IUCN Red List. Indian Rhino Vision 2020 was initiated by the Department of Environment and Forests, Assam with the Bodo Autonomous Council. This project will be supported by the WWF, Asian Rhino and Elephant Action Strategy Areas, International Rhino Foundation, IRF, and local NGOs to save rhinos. The main vision of this project is to increase the number of rhinos in Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Assam at least to 3,000 by the end of year 2020. The project also ensures that rhinos should be distributed over to at least 7 protected areas to provide future visibility. It also involves transfer of rhinos from one protected area to another. Manas National Park was the first park selected for the translocation of rhinos. Figure 6. One-horn rhino. 7. Project Ganges Dolphin. The Ministry of Environment and Forest has notified the Ganges River dolphin as the national aquatic animal. Figure 7. On the 5th of October 2009, the Honorable Prime Minister of India had declared the Ganges River dolphin as India's national aquatic animal. The river dolphin inhabits the region in Ganges, Brahmaputra, Meghna and Karnapuli Sanghu river systems of Nepal, India and Bangladesh. It is listed in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. The Ganges River dolphin was once present in tens of thousands of numbers but drastically decreased to less than 2,000 in the last century due to direct killing, river water pollution, accidental entanglement in fishing nets and poaching. WWF India started to work with the local communities for the conservation of Ganges River dolphin in 1997. This campaign is highly popular and local community has contributed to a great extent. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Figure 7. Ganges Dolphin. Vikramshila Gangetic Dolphin Sanctuary is located in Bhagalpur district of Bihar, India. It is a protected area for the endangered Gangetic dolphins in Asia. West Bengal is in process to establish the country's first community reserve for the mammal to protect the endangered Gangetic river dolphins. 8. Crocodile Project. Project Crocodile was started in 1975 with support from the Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO) and United Nations Development Program (UNDP). This project is resultant of enactment of Wildlife Protection Act 1972. All 3 species of crocodile come under the project. 1. Crocodiles gharial, Gavulus gangeticus, mugger crocodile. 2. Crocodilus palustris. 3. Saltwater crocodile. 8.1. The objective of Project Crocodile are to protect the remaining population of crocodilians in their natural habitat by creating sanctuaries, to rebuild natural population quickly through grow and release, or rear and release, technique, to promote captive breeding. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Figure 8. The gharial. 8.2. Project Sites. In 1976, it is conducted in river system of Bitakanika area in Mahanadi, Orissa. The captive breeding program was carried out for gharials, crocodiles, and mugger. A. Baula Project. It was conducted at Dangamal in Bitakanika Sanctuary of Orissa State. Baula is an Oriya term, which means salt crocodile. The eggs were collected locally and young ones are released in estuaries and creeks. B. Mugger Project in Ramatirtha. Started 1984 for care to mugger species. It is fish eater but harmless to humans. It lives in deep water. It is found in Indian subcontinent and being totally extinct from Bangladesh, Bhutan, Pakistan and Burma. 8.3. Protecting gharials. Gharial comes under critically endangered category of IUCN. In 1940s around 10,000 adult gharials were estimated in the north of the Indian subcontinent. But today, these are limited to nearly 200 adult individuals. It was reported in 2008, dozens of the gharial are turning up dead on the banks of the Chambal River. Prague Zoo works together with an international organization called Gharial Conservation Alliance (GCA) to protect the last wild populations. This organization plays a key role in gharial conservation on the Chambal River. Its activities, however, are not limited to that zone, but extend throughout India. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Gharial Project at Tikarpada. Capacitive breeding program carried out and has resulted in increase the number of gharials. 9. Project Cheetah. Beginning of the 20th century, the extinction of cheetah was making headlines. Government of India took an initiative as Project Cheetah to get back to their original state. It is the only large mammal which has been extinct from India in recent history. Supreme Court in 2012 set forth the cheetah reintroduction program by which the Ministry of Environment and Forests had proposed to import cheetah to India. The cheetah is found only in Africa, arid regions of eastern Iran in Asia. Figure 9. Figure 9. Cheetah. Kuno Palpur and Nauradehi sanctuaries in Madhya Pradesh and Shahgar landscape in Jaisalmer in Rajasthan have been selected by the Wildlife Institute of India as most suitable sites for the reintroduction project. Government of India is talking to Islamic Republic of Iran and African countries to export of cheetah. 10. Sea Turtle Project. The project was implemented by an NGO called Project Swarajya located at Cuttack in Orissa. The sea turtles figure 10 migrate from ocean to ocean and do not have any particular habit except the female ones who instinctively returns to the same beach year after year for laying. Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Its eggs. It feeds at the bottom of the ocean and comes outside periodically outside the ocean only to replenish the oxygen. Figure 10. Turtle. Today, 7 species of sea turtles such as flatback, olive ridley, Kemp's ridley green hawksbill, leatherback and loggerhead are existing. Altogether, 5 out of the 7 species of sea turtles are found in the oceans of the Indian subcontinent, the olive ridley being the most populous amongst them. Gaharmatha Beach on the coast of Orissa, along the Bay of Bengal is the place where 1,000 of them come during December and February to lay eggs. MOF initiated the Sea Turtle Conservation Project in collaboration of UNDP in 1999 with Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun, as the implementing agency. The project is being implemented in 10 coastal states of the country with special emphasis in state of Orissa. The project has helped in preparation of inventory map of breeding sites of sea turtles, identification of nesting and breeding habitats along the shoreline and migratory routes taken by sea turtles, development of guidelines to safeguard and minimize turtle mortality. One of the important achievements have been demonstration of use of satellite telemetry to locate the migratory route of olive ridley turtles in the sea and Paper 03 Biodiversity and Conservation. Sensitizing the fishermen and state government for the use of turtle exclusion device TED in fishing trawlers to check turtle mortality in fishing net. 11. Vulture conservation. Vultures are those types of birds who feed on dead animals. It is found across the world, including Indian subcontinent. These have ecological, social and cultural significance in India. It is nature scavenger and helps to keep the environment clean. Presently, they are one of the most endangered bird species in India. This is a matter of great concern as vultures are natural scavengers and play a crucial role in the ecosystem, and are also essential for the overall well-being of the environment and life support system. In 1998, observations and counts of vultures at Ecology National Park, Bharatpur, indicated a decline in number of vultures. In 1999, it was found that there is a sharp decline in number of vultures in India, Pakistan and Nepal. Research was focused around food shortages, poisoning, use of pesticides, disease or other factors. The report of the Department of Animal Husbandry, Dairying and Fisheries made a shocking revelation on the population of vultures that has decimated in the entire region of South Asia. One of the major causes of decimation of the population of vultures is the pharmaceutical drug, diclofenac, which is toxic to the bird even at relatively low dosage. In May 2006, the Government of India initiated preventive actions to curb further decline in the population of vultures, which also includes banning the use of diclofenac in veterinary sector. The government had released the Vulture Recovery Plan in 2006. The Bombay Natural History Society (BHNS) has led the movement of vulture conservation in India. In Asia, the first vulture conservation breeding center was opened at Pinjore, Haryana in 2005. At present, India has 4 vulture breeding facilities. 1. Rani, Guwahati, Assam. 2. Pinjore, Haryana. 3. Buxa, West Bengal. 4. Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. Their 4 centers are managed by the Central Zoo Authority (CZA) in Junagadh in Gujarat, Nandankanan in Orissa, Hyderabad in Telangana and Muda in Ranchi.